Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Friday, the 6th of October 2023. At the coffee morning next week, we have Project Fusion attending, and they would like to talk to our members. Across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight community, mental health and learning disability services are currently provided by several NHS organisations. The complex arrangements mean that some people and communities, depending on where they live, do not have the same access to the same care services. This was revealed by an independent review, the result of which is to bring all of these services together. For patients, this means you will have the same access to the same services wherever you live, and that expertise, equipment, and other resources can be used across all services, benefiting everybody. If you would like to join in this conversation next week and put forward your feelings about the joining of these mental health services, please do attend the coffee morning. We also have a new service which will be opening up on a Thursday for anybody looking for some foot care. Hayley will be attending on a Thursday, charging £25 for a full foot clean-up, massage, toenail cut and hard skin removal. Please book with Susan on 522205. Finally, a huge thank you to everybody who attended Asda last week on one of our bucket collections. Your undying support is greatly appreciated. Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
Here is this week's charity news. Tomorrow we will be in Tesco Freshwater collecting money for the charity between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. If you are passing, please pop by and say hello. Swimming is at Medina Leisure Centre every Monday during term time between 1:15 and 2:15 p.m. This group is open to everyone, and even if you just want gentle exercise in the water, we have the use of the whole pool, so there is plenty of room for all to enjoy. Our IT drop-in resumes at Millbrook House on Monday 9:30 until 12:30 p.m. This is now an appointment-only service, so please call the office and book a slot with Sam. Yoga is on Tuesdays between 1:45 and 2:45 p.m. at Millbrook House every week, and the cost is £4. All welcome to come along.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesdays between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. at Millbrook House. Please come along and meet the staff, volunteers and members for a chat, and also to look at second-hand equipment and seek advice, etc. This is open to everyone. This week, Project Fusion will be joining us to talk to the members. Project Fusion is several NHS organisations which are bringing services together. We are delighted to announce that we will be having Hayley in on a Thursday to run a foot care clinic. Hayley not only cuts nails but deals with hard skin, callus, treatment of corns, verrucas and plus foot cream with a massage. The appointment will be a half an hour slot and the cost is £25. If you would like an appointment, please call Susan. We are very pleased to announce we have been donated a beautiful hand-sewn quilt which we have decided to raffle. You can buy a square for £2 from the office. The draw will take place on December the 13th. It's a king-size quilt and beautiful. It is hung in Millbrook House on display. Plans are underway for the Christmas draw, and as always we are looking for donations for prizes. If you know anyone who you think would be willing to donate a prize or a voucher, please once again get in touch with Susan. Further details on any of the activities and events can be obtained by calling the office on 522205.
This article read by Howard is from the Island Echo and concerns Robin Hill. Robin Hill Country Park is being put up on the market due to a prolonged period of financial turbulence. Its owners, Vectis Ventures, have confirmed in a shock announcement this week. The Isle of Wight-based holding company that controls and operates leading attractions Black Gang Chine and Robin Hill has blamed COVID and the cost of living crisis for the decision. It's also said that visitor numbers have been badly affected by the very poor weather over the past 2 seasons. These factors have stretched the finances of Vectis Ventures, and the eventual sale of Robin Hill will strengthen the balance sheet of the group, allow debt to be repaid, and to release funds for further investment in Black Gang Chine. Although Robin Hill is being sold as a going concern, a number of individual attractions are expected to be transferred to Blackgang Chine in due course. Today's announcement is compounded by the news of 10 potential job losses, plus the cancellation of the Polar Experience event in December and the new Christmas party nights. Refunds will be given. It was less than a month ago that Robin Hill announced a temporary closure until December, as previously reported by Island Echo. Alexander de Bell, owner of Vectis Ventures, has said, "It's with a heavy heart that we've taken the decision to sell Robin Hill. It's a much-loved attraction and has given millions of visitors great pleasure and memorable visits over many years. It's been a privilege for my family to be the custodians of this site for nearly 30 years. However, the stark reality of the economic picture is that without a sale, the debt created through COVID loans would need to be extended further into the future and would prevent investment in the short term. The truth is that visitor numbers have been affected by the very poor weather we've seen in the past 2 seasons, which has given us no choice but to sell Robin Hill and focus our investment in Blackgang Chine. Robin Hill is being marketed as a going concern, and we have every hope that it will flourish under new ownership when a suitable buyer can be found." With regard to staffing, Mr. de Bell confirmed, "Regrettably, the group is unable to support the number of staff currently employed, and as part of the sale process, we're entering into consultation with the workforce where it will be explained that around 10 jobs will be at risk. We've worked hard to try to train and retain the talent in the business, and we have a reputation as a reliable employer. But the testing economic picture is such that we simply cannot carry the existing headcount." De Bell continued, "It's with regret that having made the decision to sell Robin Hill, that we will of necessity have to cancel the Polar Experience and the Christmas parties. However, full refunds will be made to those who placed their deposits with us, and no one will suffer any financial loss. The park was opened in 1971 and occupies an 88-acre site. As well as running regular events, Robin Hill used to be the site of Bestival until it moved to Dorset in 2017.
Cowes Enterprise College students forge lasting connections in Spain from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Students at Cowes Enterprise College have embarked on a journey to Calahorra, La Lloca in the north of Spain. While there, they experienced an enriching cultural exchange that deepened their global perspectives and created enduring connections. The exchange program saw Spanish students warmly welcomed by Cowes Enterprise College students into their homes at the beginning of September. Last week, the tables turned as the Spanish students reciprocated the hospitality, strengthening bonds and broadening horizons. Upon their arrival in Calahorra, Cowes Enterprise College students were met with open arms by their host families. This marked the beginning of an exciting adventure filled with an array of unique experiences, from invigorating hikes in the breathtaking mountains to captivating explorations of the charming town. Students forged cherished memories. They delved into the local culture by attending a corrida, a practice bullfighting event, but where no bulls are harmed. Some students even attended school with their Spanish peers. One highlight of the trip was the opportunity to visit the town hall, where Cowes Enterprise College student Isla briefly stepped into the role of mayor of the town. Students also explored the town's stunning cathedral. As the trip continued, students had an educational day in Logroño, where they developed into the science of fermentation and viticulture, followed by an exploration of Logroño city centre. The learning experiences were not confined to science, as they also had the chance to dig deeper into history and religious studies in Zaragoza, visiting the Palacio de Aljaferia, a fortified medieval palace from the 11th century, and the Nuestra Señora del Pilar Basilica were among the enriching activities. The trip also had a focus on health, as students underwent a full health check in the nursing department at the school, where trainees practiced their skills on students. Activities included checking sugar levels, blood pressure, and oxygen levels, as well as practical skills like bandaging, transferring on-off beds, and hospital transport. The final days of the exchange featured physical education and geography lessons in the mountains of El Branco Perdido, where students discovered dinosaur footprints similar to those found on the Isle of Wight. Cowes Enterprise College principal Rachel Kitley said, "The Spanish exchange trip has provided our students with an invaluable opportunity to embrace different cultures, make lasting friendships, and develop a global perspective. It's a testament to the rich educational experiences we aim to offer at Cowes Enterprise College."
This is Michael reading an article from Ireland Echo. School trips at risk of being consigned to history, warns English Heritage. The ever-increasing cost of school trips to places such as Osborne House and Carisbrooke Castle is becoming a serious threat to their future, English Heritage has warned. As the UK's largest provider of free school trips, the charity has seen the cost per head for educational visits rise from £2.25 to £3.66 over the past 3 years, and it is projected to hit £3.89 in 2023 to 2024. In a bid to bridge this divide, English Heritage is launching a year-long fundraising appeal to ensure the work it does for schools and education groups can continue at the same rate. The charity has also revealed regional differences in how many school trips are taken, with historic sites in the affluent southeast receiving considerably more school visits than those in other areas of the country, despite other regions containing more historic sites. In the southeast, which includes the Isle of Wight, a total of 13 educational sites are open to schools, with 57,968 visits in 2022 to 2023, an average of 4,459 per site. This means that on average a historic site in the southeast welcomed almost 8 times the number of school children in 2022-2023 as one in the northwest. 83% of all school visits to English heritage sites are free visits, with the remaining 17% consisting of immersive expert-led discovery visit workshops. Overall, school trips remain 28% down since COVID, which English Heritage attributes predominantly to the cost of living crisis rather than the enduring effects of the pandemic. With schools increasingly unable to afford school trips, the charity believes it is more important than ever to keep offering educational trips free of charge. Dr. Dominique Bouchard, Head of Learning and Interpretation at English Heritage, has said, "For many children, a school outing is the only chance they get to discover the very places where history was made. Visiting these places, touching the same stones, seeing the same sights and listening to the same sounds as those who made history is the best way to bring the subject to life. Learning about the Battle of Hastings in the classroom can never offer the same depth of understanding as visiting the actual battlefield, seeing the landscape, and even recreating the fight. And the benefits extend far beyond the topic being studied. A school trip to one of our sites can have a lifelong impact on children. It can broaden their horizons, develop their sense of self-worth, enable them to strengthen their relationships with teachers and peers, and so much more. As a charity, one of our main purposes is to provide everyone with memorable learning experiences. Our educational visits are a vital part of this. We are one of the only paid entry providers in UK to offer free school trips, and we do this because we want to instill a lifelong love of learning in every single child. However, over the course of the past 3 years, the cost of providing school trips for free has increased by 63%, and it is becoming increasingly difficult for the charity to absorb these costs. Under no circumstances do we want to stop offering free school trips, and it is for this reason that we are launching a public appeal to raise much-needed funds.
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Enforcement action taken against owners of abandoned East Cowes Health Centre. Enforcement action is being taken against the owners of a former Isle of Wight doctor's surgery after the building was left abandoned and overgrown for years. The former East Cowes Health Centre on York Avenue has been closed for over a decade as a new surgery opened up closer to the centre of town. Downhouse was sold by the NHS to a private owner, but nothing has been done with the building despite getting planning permission in 2013 to turn it into houses. In recent weeks, residents of the town have noticed work to make the site more tidy have taken place, including cutting back some of the greenery. The Isle of Wight Council has confirmed that it has an enforcement case on the site to try to remedy its current appearance and is trying to contact the landowner, but has so far not received a reply. The councillor said it understands the site is for sale and the clearance works are likely to be related to that. The former practice has previously been on the market with the possibility of renting the site out for £25,000 a year. There were calls last year from local councillor Carl Love for the site to be tidied up.
This article is read by Howard and is from the Island Echo regarding Northwood Cemetery. The Friends of Northwood Cemetery, in partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, are celebrating after receiving its 6th Green Flag Award for Northwood Cemetery. The news that Northwood Cemetery has achieved the accreditation, which is the international quality mark for parks and green spaces, is testament to the hard work and dedication of the team that care for the green space so that everyone can enjoy it. Keep Britain Tidy's Green Flag Award scheme manager, Paul Todd, MBE, said, "I would like to congratulate everyone involved at Northwood Cemetery in achieving a Green Flag Award. Northwood Cemetery is a vital green space for the community in Cowes, Gurnard and Northwood, bringing people together and providing opportunities to lead healthy lifestyles. The volunteers do so much to ensure that it maintains the high standards of the Green Flag Award, and everyone involved should feel extremely proud of their achievement." A spokesperson for the Friends of Northwood Cemetery said, "This is the 6th year in succession that we've been successful in achieving Green Flag status, which is the result of the tremendous hard work and dedication of a small team of enthusiastic volunteers supported by the Isle of Wight Council, an achievement of which we're all immensely proud. We continue to work hard on both the visual appearance of the cemetery and encouraging members of the public to share and enjoy the facilities we have on offer. This award justifies our confidence in helping provide a safe, welcoming green space in Cowes and a place that supports and promotes the well-being of the local community. The Green Flag Awards scheme, managed by environmental charity Keep Britain Tidy and licensed from the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, recognises and rewards well-managed parks and green spaces, setting the benchmark standard for the management of green spaces across the United Kingdom and around the world.
£2 single journey initiative extended once again for Southern Vectis customers. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Bus passengers on the Isle of Wight will continue to be able to travel on single journeys for £2. Southern Vectis signed up to the Department for Transport (DFT) initiative, which restricts the cost of a single ticket at the beginning of the year. An essential part of the government's Help for Households scheme, the fare cap was originally set to end on 31st October 2023, but has now been extended. I am pleased to announce that Southern Vectis will continue to offer the £2 fare cap in line with the government's announcement that the initiative will be extended, said Andrew Wickham, Southern Vectis Managing Director. We expect the cap to continue until at least 31st December 2023, and this will allow us to carry on providing low-cost bus travel. It will also help to protect many routes relied upon by local people. With one fully loaded double-decker bus having the potential to take up to 75 cars off the road, this is an excellent opportunity to reduce congestion across the Isle of Wight. Southern Vectis customers will be able to travel on any single journey on any of the operator's buses, except the Needles Breezer, for £2 or less. They can also use any payment method, including tap-on, tap-off, contactless, the app, and cash. For more information about routes and timetables, visit Island Buses Info.
This is Michael reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight Council secures funding to support Isle of Wight rural bus services. More than £500,000 of vital funding has been secured to drive through improvements to bus services across the island. The Bus Service Improvement Plan Plus, BSIP Plus, funding will aim to provide bus services and increase passenger numbers, which in turn will help support the local economy and reduce traffic congestion, the Isle of Wight Council said. Some of the initial allocation has been assigned to local bus services 6, Newport to Ventnor, and 12, Newport to Allen Bay, which cover some of the most rural parts of the island. From this week, buses will start running later on these routes as extra services are added by bus operator Southern Vectis. Routes 6 and 12 will now finish later on weekdays and Saturdays. The final number 6 service from Newport to Ventnor via Chillerton, Chale, Knighton and Whitwell used to leave just before 6 p.m, and the route 12 from Newport to Allen Bay via Shorewell, Bryston, Motterston, Freshwater Bay and Totland used to leave at 5:40 p.m. Moving forward, there will be 2 additional journeys on each route, leaving Newport in the evening, with the last route 6 leaving Newport bus station at 10:45 p.m. and the last route 12 at 11:10 p.m. The return journeys for the route 6 will leave Ventnor at 6:55 p.m. and 9:45 p.m. heading to Newport, and the return journeys on the route 12 will depart at 6:50 p.m. from Allen Bay and 9:45 p.m. from Totland, heading to Newport. These routes are among the first to benefit from the enhanced partnership between the Council and Southern Vectis, with plans to improve other local bus services thanks to Department for Transport funding secured by the Council. Councillor Phil Jordan, Council Leader and Cabinet Member for Transport and Infrastructure, said, "The £500,000 funding is excellent news for the whole of the island, and bus passengers in particular. There are many benefits to bus travel, including reducing congestion, contributing to better air quality and decarbonisation. We are working hard to ensure we maximise the funding we have been allocated and take full advantage of all the benefits that can be delivered." Richard Tilsley, General Manager of Southern Vectis, added, "Together with Isle of Wight Council, our team has worked hard to secure government funding support, which will help to make sustainable travel an even more attractive option across the Isle of Wight. Just one double-decker bus has the potential to take up to 75 cars off the roads. We strongly believe buses are the perfect solution for reducing congestion and improving air quality across the island. The bus service improvement plan will play a significant role in achieving this."
This is Patrina reading from the Island Echo. Archbishop of Canterbury to visit the site of Wight in October. The Archbishop of Canterbury will visit churches, schools and communities across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight later this month, including Christ the King School and the Bay CE School. The Most Reverend Justin Welby will meet churchgoers and non-churchgoers from across the Church of England's Diocese of Portsmouth for 3 days, from the 13th to the 15th October. It is the latest in a series of visits the Archbishop has made to dioceses in the south of England. He has previously made similar visits to Guildford, London, Chichester, Truro and Salisbury dioceses over the past few years. The Archbishop is planning to spend 1 day and night on the Isle of Wight and a couple of days on the mainland. On Friday, the 13th October, he will visit Christ the King College in Newport, which is a joint Church of England Roman Catholic secondary school. He'll meet staff and governors, bless the new chapel, and spend time with students of all ages at 3 different sessions. He'll then travel to the Bay C of E School in Sandown, where he will hear the school choir sing, tour the school with school pastors, take part in 2 conferences with students, and meet parents and staff. The Archbishop will share his faith in Jesus at a mission event at Holy Trinity Church, Bembridge, that evening. The event will also feature his favourite hymns and worship songs, led by a choir and worship group. On the morning of Saturday, 14th of October, he'll meet those who minister in the island's churches over breakfast, before a visit to inmates, staff and chaplains at HMP Isle of Wight. You can see the full programme for the weekend on www.portsmouth.anglican.org/archbishop. Archbishop Justin said, "I'm really looking forward to my trip to the Diocese of Portsmouth to meeting people who are serving God in local communities and seeing how the Holy Spirit is moving in churches, schools, care homes and beyond. I know the people of the diocese are sharing the good news of the kingdom in new and exciting ways, so more and more people might know the love of God in Jesus Christ. It will be a privilege to be alongside them in October." The Bishop of Portsmouth, the Right Reverend Jonathan Frost, said, "We are delighted that the Archbishop is coming to journey alongside us in mission. We are in good heart, looking to Jesus and seeking God's kingdom. We hope the Archbishop's visit will shine a new light on our lives together in Christ and encourage bold endeavours in evangelism, discipleship and service for the common good."
This article is read by Howard and is from the Isle of Wight radio concerning scam warnings on the Isle of Wight. The latest selection of Isle of Wight scams have been reported to trading standards this month. Here's the lowdown on the latest things to look out for and avoid. 1. Facebook scam. If you're an administrator of a Facebook page, be careful when being asked or giving permission to post adverts for events such as Christmas fairs. There have been reports that these may be scams and the poster is giving a price for stallholders and requesting private messaging to arrange. Equally, if you're a trader who attends these events, make sure you're arranging this with a genuine organiser. In each case, do some checks with local town or parish councils or the manager of the location to ensure that this is a genuine event and not a scam. Number 2, Southern Water scam. A resident has reported receiving a text asking him to call a phone number regarding his water bill. If you are concerned that this might be genuine and there might be a problem, find your own number for Southern Water and contact them this way. Don't ring any number given to you by the caller. Thirdly, the John Lewis scam. A resident has received a message from John Lewis alerting them to a potential scam where couriers have been visiting or making contact with their credit card customers, saying there's a problem with the card and asking them to hand it over. This is courier fraud. Never hand your card over to anyone, even if they say they are the police. And the last one, I've got the power scam. We've had reports regarding a phone call alleging to be from a power company. They warn of storms causing possible outages and ask you to press 1 if you understand. This number has been checked on Who Called Me and has over 1,000 comments confirming it is a scam number, often calling in the middle of the night. And again, COVID Council House confusion. Finally, a scam caller purporting to be from the disrepair team regarding the backlog of disrepair to council housing since COVID. The resident told him she didn't live in a council property and he hung up. On checking Who Called Me, this mobile number had been used for a variety of scams.
Council due to decide whether to sell former school site to housing developer. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. More than 35 affordable houses could be among 74 built on the site of a former Sandham middle school, subject to planning permission. The Isle of Wight Council is due to decide whether or not to sell what used to be Sandham Middle School to developer National Pride. Money from the sale would be reinvested in sport or education facilities. Projects agreed with the Department for Education, DFE. So the Isle of Wight Council says it is important to accept the highest offer. The DFE also has to agree to site's sale if its future is not for educational purposes. National Pride was the highest bidder after a 10-week marketing process, but the Isle of Wight Council has not revealed how much it is selling the site for because it says the information is commercially sensitive. County Hall says National Pride is also offering to build more affordable housing than is required by planning policies. Sandham Middle closed in 2011 and its site was used until 2014 by Sandown Bay Academy, which went on to become the nearby The Bay CE School and is now based at 2 other locations. The school's buildings were demolished in 2017 because it was considered the safest way to prevent vandalism. Once the decision to sell is agreed, contracts would be signed tying the council and developer into an agreement before formal planning permission is sought for the brownfield site's future. Previously, the Isle of Wight Council had considered turning the site off Perrowan Way into an extra care housing development for older islanders.
This is Michael reading from Island Echo. Crime Commissioner's priority to make our streets safer, highlighted during Island visit. Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones recently visited a number of crime-fighting initiatives on the Isle of Wight as part of a wider partnership working to make communities safer and increasing public safety. The visit on the Friday the 22nd of September 2023 comes after the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner was awarded more than £730,000 by the Home Office in the fourth round of the Safer Streets funding to help tackle antisocial behaviour, ASB, and violence against women and girls, VAWG, for the Solent Strands Together bid across Hampshire on the Isle of Wight. The funding, totalling £50 million, was announced by the Home Secretary in July 2022 for communities across England and Wales to make the streets safer for all. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight amount of £733,551 is supporting the Solent Strands Together partnership, which is a coordinated approach by 5 local authority areas: Portsmouth, Gosport, Fareham, Havant and the Isle of Wight. PC Donna Jones said, "More police and safer streets has been my pledge and my promise to communities across the 2 counties since being elected as your police commissioner. I've invested a range of transformative crime prevention initiatives that are making a difference to women and girls on our streets, in our communities and in our public places, because they should all be safe places that can be used by everyone without fear of violence or intimidation." The Solent Strands Together partnership is a fantastic example of coming together with a common aim to tackle violence against women and girls, and ASB because these behaviours must be called out and stamped out with long-term initiatives that have lasting positive effects for change. The cash injection has built on the work carried out in the previous funding round to ensure women and girls living, visiting and travelling between these areas in the Solent have a consistent offer of support, response and service. Thanks to the funding secured by the Police and Crime Commissioner, the organisations are delivering a number of initiatives. A mentoring in violence prevention MVP programme in schools that addressed unhealthy attitudes towards women and girls. A We Stand Together safe space network with 50 safe spaces for women and girls to walk into if they feel unsafe. A Community in Motion project training up to 500 professionals working in nighttime economy venues. The You project, which engages marginalised women working in the sex industry with an outreach and trauma information service. Situational measures such as CCTV, upgrading lighting and removing offensive and demeaning graffiti. On the Isle of Wight, the MVP programme has been delivered in 3 secondary schools and having also run under the Safer Streets 3 funding round, is widely regarded as a best practice model. Under Safer Streets 4, a further 10 venues on the island have received the Safe Space Network training to add to the 15 venues across Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight that benefited in the Safer Streets 3rd round. A virtual session is available to anyone on the island working in nighttime economy venues, including street pastors, bar staff, taxi drivers and bus drivers, as well as training professionals through knowledge and awareness around sexual violence. As part of the Safer Streets 4 programme, Ride Interchange received additional security measures with secure cycle storage and security shutters. As the interchange has a transport link to Portsmouth, the installation of an interactive trail will connect the two sites and increase natural surveillance, while the additional security features will help secure the area. During her visit, the Police and Crime Commissioner met students and peer mentors enrolled in the MVP programme at Medina College in Newport, heard about safe space training, met staff from nighttime economy venues, and visited Ride Esplanade to see its situational measures. PCC Donna Jones added, "This visit was a fantastic opportunity to witness how working in partnership we can all make a difference, how we can embrace real change in our communities, and how we can come together to stand firm against these crimes." Councillor Karen Luciani, Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Regulatory Services, Community Protection, Waste and ICT, welcomed the funding. "The challenges we face as an island are just as great, if not more, than some communities on the mainland. I am delighted that a number of innovative local initiatives have been supported, focusing on vulnerable groups and helping to keep our residents and visitors safe. I look forward to seeing performances, outcomes, and visiting the projects." The Police Commissioner is now working towards the 5th round of the Safer Streets Fund, with the government announcing in July this year a £60 million pot available to reduce crime and improve public safety across England and Wales.
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Plans for state-of-the-art Isle of Wight skate park submitted. Exciting plans for a new state-of-the-art Isle of Wight skate park, which could be the first of its kind on the island, have been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. Freshwater Parish Council is behind plans for a new skate park and pump track for skateboards, BMX riders, scooterists and more at the Stroud Recreation Ground in the village. It says both the concrete skate park and the tarmacked pump track would be the first of their kind on the island and have a range of obstacles and elements. The tracks have been designed by Gravity Skate Parks, which hopes the new and improved facilities will be used more while also reducing antisocial behaviour. The plans have been in the making since 2021 and have now been formally submitted for approval to the Isle of Wight Council before any further work can start. The Parish Council hopes the tracks will enhance recreational space in the village with something that is welcoming and inclusive for all, helping riders to improve and develop their skills. It also hopes rising star athletes in the West Wight, who are currently competing at national and international levels, would be able to use the track, giving them a place to train while encouraging and inspiring future generations. The plans have been supported by Hamish Fleming, owner of the Canopy Skate Park in Chale, and John Cattell, owner of White's Trash Skateboards and head coach of his own skate club. Both said the new tracks would be an invaluable asset for the West White area and beyond, having an immeasurable impact as a safe space for people to try new sports and create a community hub to make friends. Seating is also proposed nearby and, along with landscaping, will provide a pleasant environment, the parish council says. It said riders can be part of the community rather than separate from it, like the current skate park, which is hidden away and financially unviable due to wear and tear damage. You can view the plans 20/01636/FUL on the Isle of Wight Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until October 27th.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read today by me, Morris.
And by Imelda.
We begin with more news items taken from the County Press and the Observer. Post Office returning to Town Centre. Newport Town Centre will finally have its post office back next month, after going 2.5 years without one. Central Convenience Store has taken the mantle of the Town Centre Post Office, which is set to open on Wednesday, November the 29th at 1 p.m. Since the post office inside the former cooperative on South Street and Pyle Street closed in February 2021, Shaping Newport, a collaboration between Newport Business Association, Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council and the Isle of Wight Council, has been working to bring the services back. The two-position post office, Local Plus at 129 High Street, will offer customers a range of post office services, from posting letters and parcels to collecting and returning online shopping items. Customers can also take advantage of various banking services, including cash withdrawals and balance enquiries for all the main UK banks. The opening hours will be Monday to Sunday, 6 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. Welcoming the news, Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Cabinet Member for the Regeneration, said, "This is great news for Newport, and I'd like to thank Central Convenience Stores for stepping up to provide and invest in this facility." Notwithstanding the post office facilities at Pan and Carisbrooke, having a post office in the heart of the island's county town is very important to local residents, many of whom have been in touch with me about it. Using the post office is an important part of visiting the shops for a lot of people, so other businesses will benefit from the post office returning.
Woman seriously injured in Cowes. Police are appealing for witnesses to a serious collision which occurred in Cowes yesterday, Thursday morning. Police were called at 8:07 a.m. to reports of a collision involving a Kia Picanto and a pedestrian on Newport Road near to the Smithers Lane junction. The pedestrian, a woman in her 40s, has sustained a head injury which is potentially life-threatening. She has been taken to Southampton General Hospital for treatment. Officers are keen to identify any witnesses, in particular 2 specific vehicle drivers who may have witnessed the collision or the events leading up to it. They are the rider of a red motorcycle and the driver of a white lorry. Anyone with information is asked to contact police on 101, quoting 4423 040 6606. Alternately, you can contact the charity Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 11.
Isle of Wight MP and well-known GP Peter Brand has died at the age of 76. The former Liberal Democrat politician died at his home in East Cowes, surrounded by his family, on September the 22nd. Mr. Brand came second in the 1992 general election, but was eventually elected the island's MP 5 years later in 1997, taking over from Barry Field. He left the Commons in 2001, having lost his seat to Andrew Turner of the Conservative Party. Prior to becoming MP, Mr Brand was a county councillor from 1984 to 1997. As well as his career in politics, he was also a doctor and worked in Brading and Lake between 1977 and 2006. He studied at Thornbury Grammar School and the University of Birmingham Medical School. Mr Brand was a keen cook, sailor, singer, bridge player and accomplished builder. He is survived by his wife Jane and 2 sons, Edmund and Jonathan. A service of celebration of life is being held on Thursday, October the 19th. It will take place at 12:30 at St James's Church in East Cowes.
Ride set for share of billion bonanza. An overlooked Isle of Wight town is to be given £20 million over a 10-year period as part of a governmental initiative to help regenerate the high street and tackle antisocial behaviour. Ryde is one of 55 towns across the country to receive the endowment-style funds. It is part of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's plan to provide long-term investment in towns that have been overlooked and taken for granted. Backed by £1 billion investment, he said it was about putting funding in the hands of local people to improve their communities. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley has told the county press the plan will benefit Ryde residents in the long term. He said it will enhance the town centre, drive positive change, repurpose shops and tackle crime and antisocial behaviour. We have already used some regeneration money in East Cowes to fund a heavy lift crane and rebuild of some shipbuilding facilities, creating jobs and opportunities. There are a number of options for Ryde, and I'll be working with the community to make sure we use the money wisely and for the best benefit of the people of Ryde and the wider island community, all part of getting a better deal for the island.
RNLI man keeping it in the family. An RNLI volunteer who is the 5th generation of his family to have been involved with his village's lifeboat station is continuing to follow in the footsteps of his great-great-great-grandfather. John Attrell, who first joined the crew in 2019, has now passed out as a D-class helm on the station's inshore lifeboat. John's family has links to Bembridge RNLI dating back to its first lifeboat in 1867. John's great-great-great-grandfather Joey was coxswain from 1878 to 1905 and was part of rescue efforts in 1888 when the SS Serenia ran aground on Atherston Ledge. History states that Joey and second coxswain James Baker walked 15 miles in their leather sea boots to assist Bryston lifeboat. They found the lifeboat had capsized and Moses Munt and second coxswain Tom Cotton, plus 2 crew from the Serenia, had been lost. Joey volunteered to man the lifeboat for a 3rd successful trip out to the Serenia, and the remaining crew were safely brought ashore. John's father Alan and his uncle Jeff were also involved with Bembridge RNLI. John and wife Amy have an 8-year-old son Teddy, who they suspect may also join the RNLI when he's old enough.
Free town parking pilot to be extended. Free parking for an hour in the heart of the island's county town will continue into the new year. The parking pilot, which allows shoppers to park in 3 car parks in Newport, was initially started in May 2022 as a 6-month trial, but has been continuously extended due to its success. It will now continue until February 2024, with the backing of Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council, which will stump up more than $16,000 to keep it going. Councillor Matt Price said the Community Councillor must continue to support the pilot as it was difficult to put into figures how much local business benefited from the free hour parking. While he supported the pilot, a much wider look at parking inequalities around the island was needed, Councillor Price said. Councillors agreed and highlighted other parts of the island which have more on-street free parking than others, which does not affect town centres or high streets. Councillor Price and Newport have said Newport had long been a cash cow for the Isle of Wight Council, as it brought in 77% of the parking income across the whole island, despite not having a major tourist attraction or beach. Questions were asked about what would happen after February. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, the Cabinet member for Regeneration, said they were looking at another deal to come into place after February, which was cost neutral. While the Community Council contributes financially to the parking scheme, the Isle of Wight Council also has to find money to cover its lost income. Some councillors were calling for a stronger evidence base to see how much the free parking pilot really delivered in economic benefits. To take advantage of the free parking, shoppers can park in Lugley Street, C Street and Chapel Street car parks. A free ticket is needed from the machine, or it can be done via the parking app, Park Pay by Phone. The scheme was introduced to bring people back into the town, boosting trade for local retailers after the COVID pandemic.
Outrage over changes to Chocolate Box Cottage. Plans to change a Grade 2 listed cottage in one of the island's Chocolate Box villages have been slammed as damaging. The owners of Brookside Cottage in Calbourne's famous Mingle Street are seeking permission to raise the roof, install roof lights, extend the bathroom and add cladding. If approved, the work could also see the partial demolition of the cottage, removing an extension added to the back of the building in the 1950s to make the bathroom bigger and add a storage area. The extension would be finished externally with timber cladding. On the first floor, it would allow access to the roof space, as the current door is only approximately 1 metre high. Concerns have been raised about the plans by Calbourne, Newport and Porchfield Parish Council, which does not support them, saying it would be damaging to the heritage associated with Mingle Street, which is a protected area in the Calbourne Conservation Area. Speaking at a meeting, parish councillors feared if the changes went ahead, it would set a precedent. It was also said the roof lights would impact the Dark Sky initiative.
Planning for any emergency. Dozens of emergency service personnel from police to the military gathered for one of the Isle of Wight's largest ever multi-agency training exercises on Wednesday, October the 4th. Westridge Centre Ride played host to the Isle of Wight Council's Live X event. Members of the local resilience forum met to test the tactical capability of agencies on the island and how they would respond in event of a major incident. 3 county press journalists also participated after being asked to take part in a mock media briefing. The hypothetical paper-based incident centred on adverse weather. Responders had to react a fake scenario in which properties in East Cowes were evacuated ahead of heavy flooding. The mock test now threw in other incidents, including a loss of water supply in Ryde. Darren Steed, Resilience Coordinator for the Isle of Wight Council, told the county press, "It's not necessarily people on the ground deploying sandbags and evacuating. It's about how we plan for that in the event of an incident. Today it was adverse weather, storms, gales and catastrophic high tides. The reason we select that type of scenario is because that is what appears on the National Risk Register that we are encouraged by government to locally assess and plan, train and exercise for. 3 of our journalists quizzed Councillor Karen Lucioni, Cabinet Member for the Community's Protection, and Sharon Betts, Director for Corporate Services. We asked questions on behalf of the hypothetically affected residents, including what support was in place, how they could get help, how the council were tackling the incidents, and the knock-on effects it could have across the island. Emergency services, including police, ambulance and firefighters, were in attendance, alongside the council, utility providers and the military. Darren said, "What we're doing is validating our plans and making new relationships with the common outcome of protecting the island and its residents."
Shanklin's 5G rollout to step up. 5G could be rolled out in another part of the island. Plans are being lodged by Cellnex UK on behalf of EE and 3 to install upgraded telecommunications equipment on top of Shanklin Theatre. At the moment, 5G coverage is not available in Shanklin for those on 3, and it is only partially available for those on EE. There is already equipment on the top of the Grade 2 listed building on Steep Hill Road, and the new antennas and dishes could also improve the 2G, 3G and 4G service in the area. In planning documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, Cellnex said the proposed equipment has been designed to be the least visually intrusive option in the sensitive conservation area. 6 antennas will be removed and 6 new ones installed, along with other operational equipment, but any visual impact would be significantly outweighed by the immense benefits of the new 5G connectivity, Cellnex said.
Bid to save our squirrels. A new updated Red Squirrel Plan has been launched to celebrate National Red Squirrel Week, October the 2nd to 8th. American grey squirrels were first imported into the UK in 1876 as an ornamental species at variable stately homes, and now colonise most of the country. However, they are invasive, and their rise has been at the expense of the red squirrel. Despite this, the island remains a stronghold for the red, which also survives in some other parts of the country. Different groups in different areas have their own strategies for the protection of the species, which generally involves the physical removal of greys and the conserving the remaining reds. As there are believed to be no greys on the island, aside from ensuring they stay away, islanders can concentrate on giving the reds the habitat they need to flourish. The Isle of Wight Red Squirrel Foundation, which consists of landowners, charities and representatives from local environmental-based organisations, meets annually to discuss conserving our red squirrels and agree on the local strategy needed to achieve this. Helen Butler, chair of the Isle of Wight Red Squirrel Forum, said, "Red squirrels are an important and very much loved part of our native natural environment, and through this strategy we will seek to ensure that they continue to thrive on the island. We are particularly grateful for the support received through the Isle of Wight Council for the work we are promoting, and in particular for the support of Councillor Jonathan Bacon, who is now a member of the Forum." Councillor Bacon, Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Climate Change and the Biosphere, said, "The red squirrel is a hugely important part of our native natural environment, as well as being seen by many as a symbol of the Isle of Wight and our rich local nature. I wholeheartedly support the new Isle of Wight Red Squirrel Plan, and I am particularly pleased that we are going to be able to support the work that Helen and the Forum seek to do through the Development Local Nature Recovery Strategy."
Show surprise for gardening guru Harold. A green-fingered islander saw his dreams come true thanks to staff at his Newport-based care home. Right up until the age of 88, Harold, now a resident at Vector House, would tend to his large garden at his family home in Chillerton. The garden became Harold's pride and joy after retiring from his job as a bricklayer, growing potatoes, onions, runner beans, carrots and peas. In his treasured greenhouse, he would sow flower seeds like sweet peas, statice and calendula, and he was a prize runner for his beautiful gladioli. Harold enjoyed competing in the Chillerton and Gatcombe Flower Show, where he would often win prizes, medals and cups. In later life, Harold took up judging at other island shows and became an expert on how to grow veg and flowers to perfection. Harold retired from judging in his late 80s, but would still advise whoever needed it. Every July would see the preparation for the village show, where Harold loved chatting and exchanging hints and tips with the locals and old friends. Harold's children and grandchildren still carry on the tradition each July, preparing and organising the village show. In the past year, Harold's health has deteriorated and he has moved to Vector House, but happily, outside his bedroom window, there is a raised area of the garden where his family have planted some of his favourite flowers to remind him of his garden in Chillerton. In July this year, Harold's daughters were preparing for the show and asked the activities team at Vector House if Harold could attend the village flower show. Tanya Everson, head of activities at Vector House, said, "On the day of the show, Harold was treated like royalty by the organisers of the show. As he entered the showground, he was greeted by family, friends and fellow judges he had once worked with. Harold enjoyed walking around the tents, looking at all the flowers and vegetables on display, giving his opinion on what displays he thought were winners, and telling us names of the flowers that surrounded us. It was such a pleasure to bring Harold back to something he once loved so much, and to see the joy it had brought to both him and his family."
Ecstasy smuggler put festival lives at risk. A man wearing a fake stealth wristband smuggled drugs into the 2023 Isle of Wight Festival with a plan to sell them. Callum Lamptey of Swanfield Street, East London, appeared for sentencing at the Isle of Wight Crown Court last week. On September the 5th, he admitted one count each of possessing Class A and B drugs, namely ecstasy and ketamine, respectively, between June the 15th and 18th. A security officer spotted a group of 5 men, all wearing fake festival staff wristbands, and suspected they were dealing drugs, said Tim Devlin, prosecuting. During the search of Lamptey's knapsack, a silver tin was found containing 48 ecstasy tablets and 69 ketamine deals with a combined street value of £1,515. For Lamptey, 36, Annabelle Hazlitt said her client had put a large number of people in significant danger and that he made an incredibly stupid decision on the spur of the moment. Lamptey had a record of 23 convictions for 48 offences. Despite his deeply unenviable record, he has had trauma in his life, is vulnerable and open to exploitation, Miss Hansett added. Judge Susan Evans imposed 21 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years, an order which included a 4-month curfew by electronic tag.
Parish Council objects to moving fire hydrant. A century-old water hydrant is not someone's personal property and cannot just be moved 1.5 metres, which is 5 feet, a parish council has said, as it joins local residents fighting against plans. More than 30 objections have now been submitted against proposals to relocate the cast-iron Grade 2 listed Glenfeld and Co water pump on Whitwell High Street. It is one of a series in the village that were installed in the late 1880s and paid for by philanthropist William Spindler. Plans seeking to move it 1.5 metres have been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council to facilitate a new access road to a proposed 22-house development. Knighton and Whitwell parish councillors at their recent meeting said they were categorically against moving it, as the hydrants belong to the people of the village. The parish council has been custodian of the hydrants for decades and has been active in the upkeep of the water system and pumps, cleaning and painting them and ensuring they are in good condition. Councillor Tim Addison said, "As funny as it may seem to those outside the village, it shows the degree to which the rest of us care about our historical and environmental heritage. It is being treated as someone's personal property. We have not been consulted as a potential owner, and it is not there to be used as a personal chattel. It is not appropriate." The parish council says it stands behind Whitwell residents who do not approve of the plans due to its integral image on the high street and its historical heritage importance within the village.
Police crack down on rogue drivers. A 2-day police operation on the Isle of Wight, designed to crack down on dangerous driving, saw around 100 drivers dealt with. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary Operation Whitewash on September the 13th and 14th saw officers target driving without insurance, driving while using a mobile phone, driving without a seatbelt, ignoring red traffic lights, driving without a licence, and driving with an insecure load. Vehicles were also stopped for number plate exhaust, visor and tinted window offences, which on some occasions led to officers identifying further offending, including drug driving and driving without insurance. In total, 93 offences were dealt with by fixed penalty notice. In addition, 4 vehicles were seized for having no insurance or no licence, and 2 drivers were arrested on suspicion of drug driving. Chief Inspector Alice Charge said, "We know the public are concerned about driving standards on the island, so officers are protectively targeting offenders on the road to ensure responsible motorists can be safe and feel safe behind the wheel. In addition to enforcement work, we are actively tracking down areas are most affected by driving offences and are working with road safety partners to address matters on the road network. Teams on the island are all pulling together to make this possible, with combined efforts from RPU, the dual-skilled RP/ARV team, as well as neighbourhood teams and district policing teams, working together to address these issues more broadly and as a priority under Operation Mile. We continue to encourage members of the public to report driving offences and concerns around driving standards to police so we can identify any hotspots and take action to keep road users safer."
Rundown hotel candidate for demolition. Plans to demolish a hotel overlooking Sandown Bay are back on the table. Sandown Manor Hotel on Yaverland Road could be knocked down and turned into 4 houses under new plans as the business becomes increasingly unviable. Owners Carlo and Sarah Valvona took over the hotel in 2018 after it spent years on the market, but it has struggled to stay afloat following the COVID pandemic. Documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council said the changing market demands and significant repair costs, which are estimated to be topping around £600,000, are making it unsustainable to run the hotel. In light of the challenges, multiple proposals have been designed to demolish and build on the site, but plans for 6 houses were refused in 2021 and resubmitted in 2022 for 5 dwellings, 3 houses and 2 holiday bungalows. Further changes have been made to the plans for 4 houses. Proposals have the support of Sandown North's councillor Debbie Andre, who said the hotel has deteriorated and did not add anything of heritage value.
Tribute to Sandown's community champion. Tributes have been paid to Sandown's Valerie Stevenson, who has died at the age of 81. She was so dedicated to the community and interested in health and fitness, the skate park on Fort Street was named in her honour. Councillor Heather Humby paid tribute. She said, "Sandonians will be sorry to hear of the death of Miss Valerie Stevenson. Val, a former Sandown councillor, was a much valued member of the Sandown community, and it was her enthusiasm to find play areas for younger people that resulted in the town council creating the skate park, which was named after her. Val had been a school teacher specialising in sport, and following her retirement, she ran Keep Fit classes at St John's Annex, specifically adapted for more elderly residents. She felt it not only helped their mobility, but also provided social contact for those living alone. Val did not want a funeral. However, I know she will always be remembered for the support she undoubtedly gave to the young and elderly residents of Sandown. Val was Sandown born and went to school at the former West Wing School in Ryde. She taught in New Zealand for 15 years before returning to Sandown, where she lived in St John's Road.
8 deaths on Isle of Wight roads in 2022. Figures released by the Office of National Statistics last week showed a steep increase in the number of road fatalities on the island last year. In 2022, there were 8 deaths on island roads compared to 2 in 2021 and 4 in 2020. It was the largest number of road deaths in the last decade, the next highest being 5 in 2015 and the lowest just 1 in 2019. The fatalities were made up of 1 pedestrian, 1 cyclist, 3 motorcyclists, 2 car occupants and 1 person in a van. The high number of fatalities makes island roads statistically the least safe in England, with 18 deaths per billion vehicle miles. The only higher figure in Great Britain is for the Orkneys, who, with 3 deaths, scored 33 fatalities per billion miles. However, the total number of people killed or seriously injured on the island in 2022 was 68, slightly below the 10-year average of 68.7. Aside from the human costs of these tragedies, in 2020 it was calculated that each fatal accident resulted in costs of more than £1.9 million. Chief Inspector Alex Charge of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police said, "Driving standards on the Isle of Wight are a clear concern to the public, and we have invested a lot of resource in recent years to bolster our efforts to ensure drivers feel safe and are safe, and to target motorists who put other road users at risk." In November 2022, we recruited 2 roads policing unit officers who are a dedicated resource for the Isle of Wight and whose specialist skills complement the pre-existing roads policing and armed response vehicle team. Our Isle of Wight specific unit made up of dual-skilled firearms and roads policing officers. Our officers work hard to react to any ongoing incidents on the road network, manage scenes and conduct roadside inquiries, in addition to conducting proactive education and enforcement work. They also undertake family liaison duties, providing specialist support to families who have lost loved ones in fatal collisions.
Well, now we go on to Wight Memories, and this one is from the Isle of Wight Observer, and it says, "The Isle of Wight Observer, published on October the 8th, 1910, contains this appeal for old clothes or money from local residents to help young children in Ryde who were sent to school without warm clothes or shoes. We are obliged once again to make an appeal on behalf of the poorer children attending the elementary schools in Ryde. The arrival of the cold weather will not long to be delayed, and many children will be insufficiently clad and shod, unless the more charitable of our readers will assist the masters and mistresses of the schools to provide them with clothes and shoes. It's hard enough for adults to feel the pinch of poverty, but the spectacle of a child suffering through poverty ought to excite sympathy in the more unimpressionable person. If people could see the little children in the schools and observe how inadequately some of them are clothed, there would be no hesitation in lending a helping hand. The teachers in the schools see them daily and do their best, but without help from the public, they cannot do very much. There must be many in Ryde who have articles of children's clothing which have been outgrown or outworn, which could be turned into a useful garment for a poor child. Any such clothing, or in default of such a small subscription, will be welcome and should be sent to Mr. J. W. Trodd at Bettisfield Road Schools.
And now we move on to My View, and Jim Gibbons has written an article about misprints that can be quite humorous. We've all seen cautionary tales of how predictive text, spell checkers, autocorrect and more historically misprints can completely change the meaning of what one was trying to say. My last article suffered, or perhaps benefited. I was writing about Beethoven and saying that I don't listen to much music now as I share his affliction. He famously became deaf in his 40s, but I didn't make any meaning clear, and a stray T fluttering idly by changed the his to this, which improved my clumsy wording not at all. However, to your columnists, all is grist to the mill, and it gave me a peg to hang this article on. The daddy of all misprints must surely be the wicked Bible. In 1631, a Bible was printed including a new commandment, "Thou shalt commit adultery." This must have been a shattering blow to those Christians who believed the Bible was written by God, or at least with God's guidance, but they could take solace in knowing that the error was found before many copies were sent out. The Guardian newspaper, which revelled in a reputation for misprints, once outdid itself by printing a Christmas card wishing readers Merry Christmas. Webster's Dictionary, a standard work of reference in the US, once included a non-existent word, Dord, D-O-R-D, which apparently arose from an abbreviation, D or D. It is said that a newspaper published a eulogy of a general meaning to describe him as battle-scarred, but printed battle-scared, and when apologising substituted bottle-scarred. Epitaphs for tombstones are a delightful subset. An executor wished to point out to mourners about how the deceased was noted for his love for the sea and donations to maritime charities, RNLI, missions to seamen, etc., but how to fit it all in. He came up with, all his life, he loved sailors, which hardly gave the right message. It has been claimed that a war began because the sentence, "We will not declare war," was transmitted with now instead of not. I asked previously if the winning bid in an auction is the maximum that the bidders are willing to pay. Well, clearly not. It is a little more than the amount which the second highest bidder is willing to offer.
Well, now we have for public information, Age UK IW launches Dignity in Every Pack. Age UK IW has launched their £50,000 Dignity in Every Pack initiative, aiming to support older residents with incontinence and reduce the stigma associated with it. Funded by the Department of Work and Pensions through the Isle of Wight Council, there are 1,000 hygiene packs available, and the charity hopes the initiative will create the basis for widespread free access to essential hygiene products and provide support to those who care for people living with incontinence. Delivery of the packs is now underway with the assistance of a Isle of Wight distribution, who also stored and assembled them. The packs provide essential items to help maintain personal hygiene and promote dignity. As well as supporting individuals directly, HUKIW recognises the importance of supporting those in caring roles as well. The charity aims to collaborate with local care companies, charities and organisations to ensure that the hygiene packs reach not only individuals but also caregivers who play a vital role in supporting their clients' or loved ones' well-being. We want to reach as many older residents as possible with these hygiene packs and provide them with the support they need, said Maria Bunce, Chief Operations Officer. HUKIW invites local care companies, charities and organisations to join forces in distributing the hygiene packs and supporting older residents and their caregivers. Packs are also available to be collected from their offices by individuals by appointment. For more information, you can contact info@ageUKIW.org.uk or you can call 525 282.
The Island Savoyards invite you to their swamp this October half term, which is the October the 25th to the 29th. They bring Shrek the Musical to the Isle of Wight for the very first time at Shanklin Theatre on Prospect Road in Shanklin.
The Shanklin Town Brass Band has its 30th year celebration concert at 7:30 p.m. Does it say which day? Brass Band concert celebrated 30th year Shanklin United Reformed Church, High Street, Shanklin.
There is a podiatry with diabetes talk by Stephen Taylor at Newport Methodist Church on Key Street on Wednesday, October the 11th at 11:30 a.m.
And the Yarmouth Society begins its new season of monthly meetings at the town's Community Hall on Tuesday with local historian Kevin Shaw giving a talk entitled The Charge of the Light Brigade, Tennyson's Poem and the Crimean War. Doors open 6:30, cash bar refreshments, season membership until April 7:30. Visitors £3 per talk.
The next production at Trinity Theatre in Cowes is a classic from the 19th century that has been widely studied at schools and colleges over the decades. A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen was first performed in 1879. Set in a town in Norway, its focus is on Nora and a woman's place in her marriage and in society, a subject which caused a storm of outrage at the time. The play is being staged by Cowes Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society at 7:30 on Thursday, October the 12th until Saturday, October the 14th, and it ends with a matinee performance at 2:30 on Sunday, October the 15th. The theatre group says it has pulled out all of the stops to create a unique and imaginative setting devised by director Amanda Robertson. Amanda said the play is intriguing in the way it reveals so much about the characters. I studied it years ago and have always wanted to stage it. It's gripping and very atmospheric, and although the story seems simple enough, you soon realise there is much more going on, she said. The cast features Rebecca Lennon as Nora, Kevin Wilson as her husband Torvald, Martin Stanley as Dr. Rank, Nessa Law as Christine Lind, Philip Barker as Niels Krogstad, Anne Walpole as the maid, and Carolyn Ferguson as the nursemaid.
And this is Beyond the West End. For 14 years, Spotlight Isle of Wight has produced the most entertaining musical variety show on the Isle of Wight. Every summer, they've been selling out Shanklin Theatre with their fast-paced production packed full of songs and routines from the greatest musicals, iconic movie soundtracks and songs from stadium-filling performers. This year's sparkling production takes you on a musical journey through life, reviving the stories of the miracles of childhood, those magic moments of young love, to the 9 to 5 of adulthood, the happy days of marriage and beyond. This year's show features songs from the likes of Burt Bacharach, the Beatles and Elton John, as well as smash hit musicals such as Matilda, Our House and Beautiful. The final performance is on Thursday, October the 12th. With show-stopping songs, colourful costumes and a brilliant live band, there is something for everyone. If you are looking for a fast, fun and fantastic night out, book Beyond the West End show now, and you'll have the time of your life. Tickets cost for adults £19.50, concessions are £17.50, the under 16s are £15.50, and it asks you to call the box office on 868000 or book via Isle of Wight Life / Beyond the West End.
And so playing at Shanklin Theatre on Wednesday the 11th of October at 7:30 there is a Shakespeare play. Beyond the West End is on Thursday the 12th of October at 8:15. On Friday the 13th of October at 7:15 there is the Island Dance and Theatre. On Thursday, October the 19th at 7:30 there is Ronnie, Reggie and Me with Fred Dinage. On Friday the 20th of October at 7:30 there is Phil Wang. And just to remind you that the new Autumn and Winter 2023 brochure is out now.
And the Medina Theatre has on Saturday the 14th of October Abba-Mania. The Untravelling Wilburys on the Thursday the 19th of October. Elvis, perhaps not in person, on Friday the 20th of October. On the 21st of October, Seriously Collins. On the 26th of October at 2 p.m, Halloween Spooktacular. And on the 2nd of November, La Voix, the Red Ambulance Tour.
And now we're moving on to letters. And I have a letter, headlines, Rival Bidders Set Out Their Stalls. Dear Editor, Yarmouth residents continue to be exercised about the future use of the former primary school site between Mill Road and the River Yar. It was once under the influence of St James's Church, with covenants requiring its use for educational purposes. Now it is up for sale. There are reputedly 8 bidders seriously interested. Along with more than 100 others, I attended a public meeting at Yarmouth and District Community Hall recently to listen to one bidder's proposal. I must say I was impressed. There had been earlier meetings which were more or less ramshackle, but this was noticeably better, leaving an impression that this group had the interests of the community at heart and would be worthy stewards well able to manage its future use. This bidder is the Yarmouth Community Foundation, set up for the purpose with financial support from a well-endowed local charity and educational direction from the Maritime Archaeology Trust. They would set the tone for the future by moving to this site the artefacts presently displayed in the Shipwreck Centre at Arreton Barnes. The YCF vision proposes a variety of community benefits rather than commercial profit, and certainly has my support. Judging from the response from the meeting, I am not alone.
And joyful music from Marianne Rumens of Bembridge. I left the strange weather and month of September with a joyful musical bang. For I was transformed from an octogenarian suddenly back to my 30s, a toe-tapping, swinging me. At the Garlic Farm restaurant on September the 30th, hosted by Hugo Boswell, the music of the late Django Reinhardt, the famous musician who actually was a true gypsy. What a fabulous venue we had! Superb tapas, great host and atmosphere. The musicians fabulously played with professionalism and love. I was blown away. Many thanks to the Garlic Farm and Sol Grimshaw, guitarist, Harry Diplock, guitarist, John Thorne, double bass, and the incredible Matt Holborn, violinist.
Better deal, writes Keith Hook of Wootton Bridge. After reading the negative comments in the local press recently, I believe the time has come to help set the record straight on our MP's results on the island towards that better deal. Bob Seeley's efforts over the last 5 years have led to £48 million for island healthcare, £6 million for island shipbuilding, as well as the purchase of the Venture Keys site, together with the new boat hoist enabling work to be carried out much on larger craft, coupled with £45 million for island railways. In the last 3 days, Ryde, along with over 50 other towns, has been allocated £20 million over 10 years from the Government Levelling Up Fund. Keep up the pressure, Bob.
And this is Perfect Home for Treasures. This is Professor David Tomalin, Isle of Wight County archaeologist, 1980 to 2000. On September the 19th, 135 people packed into the community hall at Yarmouth and enthusiastically discussed proposals for the future of Yarmouth's redundant school building. The Yarmouth Community Foundation, YCF, proposes to transform it into a community activity centre for young and old, with an exciting shipwreck museum and a well-staffed centre of excellence for advancing the maritime archaeology of the Solent. If approved, Martin Woodward's astonishing collection of shipwreck artefacts, an early oared lifeboat, will be relocated from Arreton. This highly popular attraction already welcomes thousands of visitors a year. Facilities are also planned for local scouts and guides, providing a base to socialise in a building that has been ranked as the educational centre of the town. This proposal has been jointly assembled by the Maritime Archaeological Trust, MAT, and the Herapath Shenton Trust, a Yarmouth charity that has supported local education and recreation activities since the 1960s. The record of both is exemplary. As last man standing from the Yarmouth Maritime Heritage Project of 1985 to 8, I should explain that Matt was born of Yarmouth after 26 local project staff were funded by the Manpower Services Commission and supported by the Isle of Wight Council. Support from Yarmouth residents was absolutely amazing. Our surprise discovery was the wreck of the Santa Lucia, AD 1567, that still awaits full investigation just off Yarmouth Pier. In Solent waters, there is much coming to light. The trusts are prepared to take on the school building without calling a high-pressed local authority fund. With a perfect economic asset for one of Britain's much-loved historical ports. An alternative, converting or demolishing the building for speculative development, could introduce further holiday homes, empty for most of the year, a loss of a historic asset to the town, and a big negative in White's essential tourism profile. Entrusted with the care of hundreds of artefacts from the Solent seabed, the Isle of Wight Council now finds itself blessed with a historic school building that finally offers the perfect home for exhibiting the maritime treasures it has long held in store. Our rich maritime heritage can now be presented to visitors in the very best of all settings. Here is a win-win opportunity to ameliorate current museum challenges by endorsing two highly respected home charities. Here's to Vectensian wisdom and integrity.
The Sunflower Lanyard. We all need to know about this, and a name and address is supplied. The Sunflower Lanyard is free to those who are eligible. Originally, it was put in place to support and help those with a hidden disability who were travelling either alone or with a companion. Its Everyone's Journey was developed by the Department for Transport in partnership with industry, disability groups and disabled people. The campaign forms part of the government's inclusive strategy. There are now many ways in which the use of the Sunflower Lanyard is there to help all people with hidden disabilities, especially those on the autistic spectrum, as well as helping others who are eligible and who are travelling or those who are just out and about, perhaps shopping. In order to fulfil the intention of the Sunflower, everyone needs to know about the Sunflower Lanyard and its purpose. A parent or companion can carry one on behalf of those who are too young or just do not want to wear one. At the moment, it seems that most people just do not know about the Sunflower Lanyard and its purpose. It's not advertised enough.
And with that, Imelda says goodbye to you all. Have a lovely weekend. It's going to be hot, so be careful.
And it's goodbye from me, Morris.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
How Kiat's e-cargo bikes are revitalising island communities with eco-friendly grocery deliveries. On the White. An innovative e-cargo bike delivery service is supporting the island's network of community pantries by providing pedal power for home deliveries. Kiat, the community interest company launched by Matt Whitaker last year, is supporting vulnerable residents by delivering groceries and other essential supplies to their doorstep. The new partnership is helping to provide affordable food to islanders who would otherwise struggle to access the community pantries at East Cowes, Ventnor, Ryde and Newport, either through mobility issues or anxiety. Access to lower-cost groceries. The Community Pantry Scheme provides access to groceries at a lower cost than supermarkets or shops, as well as dealing with food waste. Anyone can access a community pantry, they just need to sign up to become a member. For a small weekly contribution, community pantry members can access significant savings on their weekly food shop. For example, a £5 voucher equates to more than £15 in groceries. The range of food available changes on a weekly basis. The island pantries have been set up with the support of the Isle of Wight Council's Connect 4 Communities Cost of Living Support Project, funded by the Department for Work and Pensions Household Support Fund.
Going the extra mile to support vulnerable residents, Laura Hales, who leads the island programme, said, "We really like to thank Matt and his team of riders for going the extra mile to support some of our most vulnerable residents. Their deliveries mean we can reach those who cannot make their way to the community pantries for health or mobility reasons, and in a way which reduces carbon emissions and raises awareness of alternative transport options. More than 9,000 deliveries. Since starting up last year, the Kurt Rider team have travelled more than 12,000 miles, completing almost 9,000 deliveries, moving a total of around 42,250 kilograms of goods with 0 accidents. They are currently appealing for more volunteer riders to be able to offer a similar service to other island charities at no direct charge to them. Matt says, by becoming a volunteer rider, you get a full body workout without the cost of signing up to a gym, while at the same time helping people and giving something back to the community. We provide training so you are confident in riding the e-cargo bike safely. Moving services from motor vehicles to cargo bikes makes sense for everyone. It helps reduce traffic, improve air quality, and reduce noise. If you would be interested in finding out more about volunteering or for more information about Kurt, please visit their website.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Shab Bakir. Well, I don't think much more evidence is needed that I am not one of the world's natural linguists, and a week just spent on holiday in France has confirmed that for me. Like a lot of people of my generation, I learnt French at school, but discovered once again that if you don't keep up with it, what you thought you knew goes away. As soon as somebody started to speak to me last week at any speed, I was understanding about one word in 4. So, after a few emails as well from listeners about learning languages and suggestions for some of the best techniques to use if you are visually impaired, we decided to recruit some experts and enthusiasts for languages to share their tips. They include 2 teachers, an interpreter at the European Commission, and an enthusiast who's also a linguist by marriage. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So let's get you all, first of all, to introduce yourselves and tell us what languages you speak and in what context you speak them.
I'm Kirsty Wolf and my first language is English. I also speak German, which I started at school. During the lockdown, I started learning Romanian and more recently I started learning Portuguese. So I use English at work because I'm an English teacher. I also use them a lot in my free time too, because I think it's really important to keep using them and making them part of your everyday life.
Hi, I'm Stephen Brazier. I spoke French from when I was at school, and towards the end of my career at work, I began to use it and went back and did an evening thing at the university. But then after I retired, I decided I would begin to learn German. And after 8 years, I managed to get a degree at Nottingham University. Nowadays, I mainly use it in Nottingham, where there are lots of language groups that you can go to, sit around in a cafe or a pub and have informal conversations.
Hi everyone, I'm Roshni. I speak Urdu and Hindi, which I started learning in my teens really as a bit of a hobby, but then used and needed quite extensively when I went off to work for a few years in South Asia. I also speak Farsi on account of being married to an Iranian and needing to speak to ideally my husband and also my in-laws. And I'm also currently learning Sanskrit to aid in my work as a yoga teacher.
I'm Terry. I work as a civil servant in the European Commission, so I use my languages as a simultaneous interpreters mainly. My languages are English, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Estonian, and I'm learning Albanian. My native language is French.
Right. I want to start with Kirsty. Let's just find out a bit more about how and what you teach.
So I provide English language courses for adults. I work online. I do a lot around business English, conversational English. A lot of what I do is actually helping people to discover themselves in the other language. So we also work looking at building confidence and being able to say all the things that people want to say in the other language, because, you know, it's not just about learning words and grammar and things like that, although those things are important. People are presenting themselves in a business context and even socially, and they want to be able to do that in a way that feels natural and authentic. I don't primarily teach blind and partially sighted people, although I have had a few customers who know that I understand the need for an accessible learning experience, because I've had some challenges in the past when I've been looking for private language courses.
So, Kirsty, if you do have visually impaired students, or when you do, to what extent do your teaching methods differ for them?
They don't really, because my teaching methods have to work for me as well. From my own personal experience, I have preferred to work one-to-one in language courses, apart from when I was at school, because sometimes the teacher will need to rethink about the learning objectives and how I'm going to learn, because we don't use pictures and things like that. So I do have groups. A lot of what I do is one-to-one because that's what people seem to prefer. I really believe that learning a language should be fun, because most people that I'm working with don't have to do it. So if they're choosing to do it, then it should be an enjoyable experience.
Right, we'll come back to methods of teaching a bit later on. I want to bring in Stephen Brazier. You went down the more formal route of learning German at university, and we'll talk about that too. But you set up, and you mentioned this in your introduction, a language sort of meet-up group. Tell us more about that, why you did that and what you think the value of such a group is.
One of the things I realised when I was doing my German degree was that my French, which was reasonable, was vanishing. It was being blocked out. And so I set up a group 1 day a week. I discovered that if you can reuse the language you've got for 1 hour a month, in a reactive situation in a pub just talking without an agenda. It's enough to keep it where it is. And so we set up a French group. So I think most big towns in Britain have probably got informal language groups where you can go along and speak and listen. And if you're visually impaired, speaking and listening is the most critical thing.
I want to go to Roshni. You also teach a little bit, I think, but you teach Sanskrit?
Yeah, I teach Sanskrit chanting and yoga philosophy, which is based on Sanskrit texts. Sanskrit is more, I guess, common than people might think, because if you have been to a yoga class and you've heard the yoga music playing in the background, or you've chanted Om or something at the beginning, then all of those things come from the Sanskrit language. And Sanskrit is also the root language for languages like Hindi and others that originate in South Asia, which I already speak. But I can very much relate to what Stephen was saying, that I think listening and speaking is definitely the priority if you have no sight. And because so much of Sanskrit is communicated or was communicated via an oral tradition, chanting is almost equivalent to singing. There's a lot of science to back up the fact that if you're trying to learn a language, learning it in that kind of nuanced way where you're maybe singing stuff or engaging in more of a cultural immersion, you're more likely to absorb it deeply and easily.
Would you care to give us a little demonstration, maybe?
Go on then. I'll give you a quick mantra, shall I?
Yeah.
Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat.
Brilliant. We'll get you a round of applause.
Virtual applause.
From everyone that's scattered all around the UK. Let me bring in Thierry. Now, you are different again because you work as an interpreter at the European Commission, an organisation which operates at the heart of European politics, of course. What does that role entail and how did it come about?
I studied English and Spanish linguistics in France. And I managed to find a job as a foreign language assistant in Scotland. And then I was offered a job in the University of Bradford, which at that time was a place where they were training interpreters. So this is where I did my training as an interpreter. So I had Spanish as another language, then I studied Italian, because to work in European institutions, you needed 3 languages. And by, during my career, I added other languages. But I think, as a blind person, when you study a language, you need as well a way of writing. You cannot learn only by listening to people. You need to know how to write as well. If you want to make notes, this is what we need, for example, in our job. When I started to work, we couldn't go on the internet. And nowadays, we can get all the documents and meeting documents and on internet. Being in the interpreter booth, you can check on the tablet and then either listen to it or use your brain device to read the documents. So this is why I think when you're a blind person and when you want to learn a language, you need also a written support.
Now, people are probably thinking this is a pretty high-powered thing for a blind person to do, but actually you're by no means the only blind person who works as an interpreter, I think.
Not at all. In the European Commission, we're about 10 or 12 people.
Right. I'd like to pick that up with the others, perhaps going back to Kirsty first, talking about how you learnt languages. What methods worked for you?
I rely mainly on speech. I have learnt the Braille systems for Romanian, Portuguese, just because it's quicker for input on my phone. But when I'm at my laptop, I will always type. It's important to understand what kind of learner you are, because in terms of listening to how other people use the language, it's about understanding how people who use that language choose to put their sentences together and what sounds good, what doesn't. And if you don't listen to enough material, then you won't know what sounds good or correct. For example, the lack of subtitles for me, because I can't see them, actually really helps, because if I want to understand something, I have to really focus and listen and understand that thing, because I can't rely on getting that information in a written form if it's spoken information. And most of our conversations are like that.
And Roshni, what about you? Because again, we're talking about you learning Eastern languages. I don't know, therefore, how much the Braille system would compare, how much it's translatable. Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I think it kind of depends what you want to do. So I think if you just want to engage with the language conversationally, it's enough to be able to listen and copy and make ad hoc notes where you want to. And that's kind of where I learned Hindi in my teens, because we didn't have screen readers then, to be honest. And I used to just take my big braille machine along to the class and make whatever notes I could, which were mainly phonetic type notes. And that was enough. And that's been enough for Farsi as well. But interestingly, what I'm finding now with Sanskrit actually is that I'm going back to my braille because screen readers have been a bit slow to reach South Asia, and we don't have them for a lot of Middle Eastern and South Asian languages even now. So it's been easier for me to learn Sanskrit Braille so that I can read text correctly and I can chant correctly because Sanskrit has a very specific grammar system and it's also a tonal language.
And for you also, having family who spoke Farsi, for example,
Mm.
that must make a big difference when it comes to using it regularly.
It does. It makes a massive difference. All of my in-laws live in Iran, and my father-in-law is the only one among my extended family who speaks a little bit of English. And they're very good. My mother-in-law in particular is uber patient, and she will get really frustrated if she doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. So she will gladly sit with me for an hour until we figured out what I'm on about. And it's hard work for all of us because, of course, not having that visual thing that other people have where you can point and say, I want to eat this or I want this item or I'm talking about this. We have to get creative, but it's a really interesting learning experience.
And Thierry, I mean, given the number of languages you speak, I just wonder what effect that has on your sort of social contacts with people. I mean, you must be in a position where you can hold pretty reasonable conversations with, I don't know, just about anybody you meet in Europe anyway.
Well, yes, yes. I can speak with all the Spanish-speaking people, all the Italian-speaking people. But what is interesting is the cultural dimension of learning languages. I was at the hairdresser shop recently, and my hairdresser is from Syria. He told me, well, you're speaking 6 languages, so it means that you're 6 different men. And I just thought about it. When you learn language, you learn a culture. You learn the eating habits, the different way of behaving of people. And that's the interesting things about languages.
I'm just thinking, listening to you all you very competent linguists, that people perhaps who've got in touch with us saying, they want to learn, might be feeling a bit daunted by your skills and your confidence. I mean, one might imagine that because of blind people's need to rely on listening, that learning languages might be something in which we could expect to be reasonably successful. I mean, could we go as far as to say there are advantages in being blind?
Yeah, Peter, it's Stephen. I always advise people learning languages to listen to foreign radio, particularly the news. If you can do 5 minutes a day with the news, most of which you already know because you've heard it in English. And I think visually impaired people have got a big advantage when it comes to taking in information through their ears. I can listen to text being read out to me in German from the computer. And I think I'm quite good with comprehension because I've been practiced at listening. Anybody with visual impairment will be better at listening than most people.
Kirsty, what's your take on this? Because you said that you basically learnt through listening.
I think it depends on the language that you want to learn, and it's important to be empowered to learn. Like, for example, when I started learning Romanian, there weren't so many resources for beginners, and those that I found were quite visual at times. So I think it's always important not to look at what other people are doing, but to find resources that work for you. So that could be that you rely more on podcasts than series. It could be that you start making connections with other people. I had a friend who used to send me audio messages in Romanian talking about her dog and her family and her work and just basic everyday stuff. But I learned so much that way. So it's really important to make connections at the beginning.
I'm going to ask you all this. Thierry, one tip, one bit of advice for someone who's wants to learn languages but is maybe a bit nervous.
Honestly speaking, Peter, I would work with a teacher. I've learned 6 languages and I've always worked with teachers because I'm sorry, but I don't believe in the myth that blind people are more gifted for languages than anybody. We were just like average people.
No, we like realism on this program.
Okay, I know. And maybe you have one-to-one tuition if possible, because we are maybe a bit slower in our learning, and you learn more because they teach you the culture, they teach you the way of behaving, they teach you the country.
Okay, so broken down, get a good teacher. Roshni, your advice, do you have to marry someone from a different culture?
It might be a bit of an extreme solution. It's definitely one in the toolbox, perhaps. But I would say immerse yourself as much as you can in the culture, either by meetup groups in your local community or ideally traveling to the country if you can. You will pick up so much of the culture and the beauty of the language, which will embed it much more deeply in your subconscious.
Okay, just one more quick thing for all of you. It's obvious talking to you and listening to you that as well as hard work, there's a lot of fun in learning languages. And it's always interesting to explore the different ways in which different languages and perhaps cultures to express ideas. And I just wondered, do you all have perhaps an example of that in the languages you've learned? You know, perhaps phrases that express things in different, perhaps to our ears, rather quirky ways. Stephen, going to start with you on that one.
I asked my wife, and she doesn't speak German, but she said when we were in Germany, the one phrase that she could say was, Ich habe genug gehabt, which meant I've had enough. Mine is umständlich, which is a wonderful word. And even when I speak English, sometimes I want to say it because it means it's too much flaming trouble.
Very useful. Roshni, have you got one?
So in Farsi, there's a beautiful word for that time when you're procrastinating and you're sort of trying to buy time to avoid doing something that you don't want to do. And they call that concept Gorbe Rakhsuni, which translates literally as cat dancing, which I think is just a beautiful sentiment for that and really conjures up that picture of a cat jumping about on a hot tin roof trying to ferociously avoid doing something.
Thierry, one from you?
One word in Albanian, Udhëtim. Udhëtim means journey, because I think it's linked with discovering cultures. It's linked with my job.
Okay, and Kirsty, the final one.
I don't actually have a word like that, but if I had to end with something, I would say it's like the saying that I've read somewhere that perfect can be the enemy of really good, because one of the things that people really struggle with in the lessons that I teach is trying to be perfect, trying to make sure everything is 100% right. Just to go with this, you know, if you do your best, you can often do a lot better than you think you can, because one of the things that really gets in our own way is ourselves.
Well, I think, as you say, that may not be a particular word, but it's just another piece of good advice. Many, many thanks to you all, Kirsty Wolf, Roshni Hafiz, Stephen Brazier and Thierry Toulet. Thank you all. And that is all from us for now. Do share with us your own tips and tricks for learning a language. Or indeed, if you'd like to tell us about anything else, you can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338, or you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings, and studio managers Sharon Hughes and Helen Williams, bonsoir tout le monde.
Ciao, arrivederci.
Tschüss.
Khуда nigetar.
Yeropafshim.
Scaffolding and Skips News for the 9th of October 2023. The Newport area. 9 Pyle Street, 32 Chapel Street, 1A High Street, 27 Lugby Street, JD Sports 110 to 112 High Street, Key Owl House, Key Street, Superdrug 127 to 28 High Street, 11 the corner of St James's Street and Lugley Street, Methodist Church, Key Street, Taylor and Sons Jewellery 110 St James's Street, Skips Newport area, 6 Dodner Mews, Dodner Lane.
Ride area, Hills Court, Newport Street, 20 Green Street, Outland Video Games 67 High Street, 14 Nelson Street, Flat 1 St Leonard's Pier Road in Seaview, Union Nail Salon 78 Union Street and Hurst's 26 Union Street.
And in the Cowes area, 71 York Street, 6 Terminus Road, 126 High Street.
In East Cowes, the Barracks at Guardhouse, Albany Road.
And in Ventnor, the Met Bar, Ventnor area, the Met Bar, Ventnor Esplanade, Miramar Court, Hamborough Road, Golden Sands, Ventnor Esplanade.
And in the Sandown area, Serenities at 85 High Street, and in Shanklin, 6 Cross Street.